Man, we live. Yo, Strick City on the ride. Yo, look like surprise. Yo, taking your city like we live. Yo, man, we live. Yo, taking your city like surprise. Yo, on the ride. Yo, Strick City coming live. Yo.
Listen, I am wasting no time today. I'm not. I've already shared the show, and I need you to do the same. Why not hang out with us tonight? We have great topic and a phenomenal guest with me tonight. I'm going to give you a second. Come on. Go ahead and share this so everybody you know can actually see what you're going to see tonight, whether that's Facebook, whether that's YouTube, whether that's Periscope, through Twitter. You can get us all over the place tonight, and I want you to catch me every Tuesday night, 8 p.m., every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Strick City Live is coming your way. All right? So in the descriptions today of this show, you can see who I'm talking to, but you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you can get all the notifications whenever I do a new video. Guess what? It'll come right to you. That being said, I am ready to get started. She's been on our show already this year. Like one of the first people I called and said, hey, can I get an interview with you? And she was so gracious to give me some of her time. And she is back. You know why? It's so timely. We need to talk. The founder of Woke Vote, DeJuana Thompson. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good, Strick. How are you?
I am so excited to have you on the show tonight. So if I want to talk about politics and what's going on with the candidates and what's going on with the political race and the election, guess what? I want to go to the source. You know what I'm saying? I want to go to the person that's in the know about what's happening so we can help educate people in our community.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm thankful to be on the show. I think it's just a great platform for people to be able to get information and culture, particularly. And I'm also thankful that you consider me a source. I have been doing this work for now about 19 years. I can't. I'm in some form of
Has
fashion.
it been that long?
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. And I feel like it dates me, but at the same time, longevity of any kind in anything is really rare these days. And so I'm thankful that I've been able to do different things in my career path, but it's all been a part of sort of this idea that politics, social justice, activism and faith can all work in the same space. So, and that's what I believe.
So I called you one of the sources. I want to say this to you. Now, I have known you for a while, and you have been doing the work in that space for a long time. If I have questions, because you know what, this is not easy topics. These are not easy topics at all. You want to go to someone that you know and you trust is going to tell you the right thing. The last time we talked about, you said something that was profound to me. So I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I'm about the issues, and I want to be sure that I got that quote from you right, but it's about the issues for the community. Am I saying that right about you?
Yeah, I mean, the elections dictate that for the most part, that we claim a party to elect individuals, and so I may have a history of voting a certain kind of way, but when it comes down to where I stand in terms of how I would brand myself. I don't brand myself as a Democrat or a Republican. I brand myself as someone who's here ultimately for the liberation of my community, in whatever system, whatever leadership, whatever resource, whatever opportunity there is out there. I'm not going to take anything off the table as it relates to saving my community, but I'm going to do it in the most responsible way. I mean, we can look at some of the things that have been going on recently, like with the ice cubes of the world and different things like that. And people
Right.
wondering, was that a good thing? Was it a bad thing? The Kanye West of the world, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? When Steve Harvey sat down with Trump years ago, is that a good thing or a bad thing? The Omarosas of the world, who's a friend of mine, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And so, I don't like boxes.
Right.
I'm here to ultimately to change the material conditions of my community and make sure that we have what we need. And so, that's where I land on it.
I absolutely love that, and I feel the same way. It's about the issues of the times. That being said, you mentioned the ice cube situation. So many people are jumping on board to do politics, and I like for people to use their influence to influence other people, even if it's who's elected or if it's the president. Like they get elected, hey, I
Yeah.
want to use my influence to kind of help my community. I feel that may be what he's doing, but there's so many twists and turns to partnerships, acquaintances, business owners that you always kind of like, is this true? Is this really happening? Is this
Yeah.
person really on an up and up? I feel like he is, but there's so many things, so many stories that's come out about what he's trying to do and aligning himself up with Trump.
Well, first of all, I can't speak to his intention or, really what's in his heart. I can only speak to the way in which it manifested, outside of himself.
Right.
And here's what I would say. I love basketball. I love basketball. And I would tell people on any given day, I may not know all the players, but I followed my coaches. I was a Phil Jackson girl until Phil could have coached Little League, and I'd have been right there like, yes, let's go, Phil, right? But if you were to ask me right now to go to the NBA and weigh in on the rules and what the NBA should do for, to better the job for the players, to better the opportunities, to if you were asking me to go to the NBA and say to them how their policy should shift, and all those things, could I go? Absolutely. Woke Vote actually has a partnership with the Clippers. We have a partnership with the Houston Rockets. We have a partnership with several players in the NBA who support our work, and in the NFL, to be quite honest. But I would never go and speak to the NBA on behalf of players just because I love basketball,
Gotcha.
especially if I have not gone to players, coaches, folk who've been in the league for a long time, back office people, front office people, without doing my due diligence. And I would not have gone alone. I would take with me credible voices that when this does hit the air, because a lot of those conversations are done in
Right.
sort of behind closed doors.
Right.
But I know that sometimes behind closed doors can take on whatever perception. And in this case, the president is a mastermind around perception, and he will use anything to prove a point, good or
Right.
bad, right? And so knowing that I am not versed in every single piece of legislation, knowing that I don't know all these things, I would take people with me. And I think the critique that I have of Ice Cube is really not that anybody has the right to speak and has the right to have an opinion, has the right to use their influence, their platform. I'm glad he did that. My critique is that he did it outside of community. And he did it in a way that those who have been working in the trenches, who sort of been fighting, it doesn't seem that and this is from the outside looking in, I could be corrected, from
Right.
what I know and the individuals that I know, there wasn't a rallying of thought around him that said, okay, if you're going to get this opportunity, here are some of the things that we want to talk about, here are some of the things you might want to put on the table. And so I think that is what sort of um what created a challenge for me in understanding whether or not it was authentic or not. Because anytime you're going to have a platform like that and you don't engage the leaders, the folk that are actually closest to that thing, and you sort of stand out and do it on your own, and then you take the stance of, well, I'm a person too that likes politics. I'm like, liking politics is not
Right.
that's not the goal here. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Do
Right.
you know
Right.
how a
Right.
bill gets made? Can you
Right.
count how, what I'm saying? Like, and all those kinds of things. So, and I think ultimately it's a distraction. Kanye's a distraction, if you ask me. These are all things that really in this moment going into the election, whether somebody approves Ice Cube's program or not, because number one, if you know anything about politics, nothing that he asks for can be done immediately.
Right.
So we're not talking about immediate fixes here. We're not talking about with this particular president, if he continues to go on, we're probably not even talking about fixes that happen in the 4 years that he has left. So really, we're talking about how do you position yourself and position a policy to later on become a thing. And right now, that's just a distraction. And he
Right.
knew, and I think the powers that be know that right now the black community of color seems to be rallied around the idea of getting their vote out. Who they're
Hmm.
going to vote for, we don't know. But there seems to be more interest right now in politics and activism and voting than really has been in a long time. And I think that scares certain people. And so people have been planting little seeds of distraction all along the way. And I think that we just have to be very, very focused about what we have to do, and that's vote on November 3rd or early.
So this is why I have you on the call tonight, DeJuana. This is why I called you. Like, putting out this information helps everybody. Listen, I could be in a position. I'm not in a position like Ice Cube, but I know I don't know everything. So guess what I do? I call you. What is Woke Vote doing? What are you guys doing? Like, these are some of the things they're saying. Is this really true? Is this really an issue? And you
Yeah.
can be like, no, it's not an issue. This is the real issue. And these are the doors that we need to be looking into. And these are some of the things that we should see as a distraction. Listen, everybody that is watching this tonight, share this. You want to hear. I only have her for a little while tonight. She has some other things she's got to get to, but I want to be sure that we understand her role or the role of Woke Vote in these next coming weeks. What are you
Yeah.
guys doing to help?
Whew, okay, so for those who may not know about Woke Vote is an organization that exists for the long term effective engagement of communities of color around their political and social voice. And so the idea is that you don't organize or build a civic culture just around election time. You actually have to engage and intentionally engage our communities throughout the year and non-election years, so that when it's time to vote, people are voting from a place of understanding. People are voting from a place of information. People are voting from a confident place. And it's not just about voting. At Woke Vote, we talk about a holistic strategy that looks at, okay, the vote is a tool. It's one tool. You can't build a whole house with one hammer, right? So
Right.
voting isn't the silver bullet. It's not the end all be all, but it is one of the most powerful tools. It is a hammer, right? A hammer is a very important tool to building a house. It's not the only tool though. And so the question is, if the vote is not the only tool, what are the other tools, right? So Woke Vote teaches and provides opportunities for us to talk about all of the tools that help us to ultimately be able to, what we say, liberate our communities and change the material conditions of the folk that we serve. And so right now, specifically, our role is to make sure three things. One, that people have all the information that they need on how to vote, right? And that is whether or not they're going to vote by mail, the traditional way, which is you cast the ballot and then you receive that ballot and then you fill it out at home and then you mail that ballot in. That's traditional way. Or if you are going to vote by mail and then take it in person now in certain places, like in the state of Alabama, you can do that right now. And there's a process that goes along with that. Or if you're even just going to go and vote in person, on election day, the way, so many I still believe will. In light of COVID, there's a lot that we just need to know and to take, consideration as it relates to, excuse me, our voting opportunity. So that's first. Two, our job is to ensure that people know and understand everything that's on the ballot, right? A lot of people straight, they know it's a presidential election, but they don't realize that there are amendments and battle initiatives and
Right.
house seats and all kinds of other things that are on that ballot. So when they think they might have done their research and they got it down for the president part, but
Right.
then when they get in there, when they get inside the booth and they give them that, that ballot is about, it's long. And it's like,
Right.
wait, I didn't even realize all these people's, what all this was. And so we want to be sure that people know that, it's not just the president that's on the ballot. There are other things. And here those roles do. I mean, you'll be surprised that there's so many roles that are on the ballot that we just as citizens in America, and not just Black citizens, just citizens period, we don't even know what those roles do. And so
Right.
sometimes we don't even vote because it's really not connected to our experience. Which brings me to the third thing that we really do is we try to help people connect their vote to their everyday experience, so that it's not this question of, oh, voting doesn't impact me, voting isn't, important. It's like, well, let's really talk about how these things exist and impact your everyday life depending on where you are in life. So if you are 19 years old going to college on a Pell Grant, voting impacts your life. If you are 63 years old looking forward to being able to retire and you want to make sure that you have Social Security, voting impacts your life. If you have asthma, voting impacts your life. If you're a child like my nephew, he has autism, voting impacts your life. If you want to love who you want to love, voting impacts your life. If you want to pray how you want to pray, voting impacts your life. And so every single thing, if you just want to drive your new car and not hit a pothole that knocks out your whole transmission, voting
Voting
impacts your
affects.
life.
There you go. There you go.
Like I almost did the other day. Oh my God. But anyway, so so I think sometimes having to make those connections for people is really what helps and sort of distinguishes woke vote, because we take that time not to do that just when we're asking for people's votes.
Right.
So we're trusted voices at this point, and we're very thankful for that, because we've done that work of building community when it's not election time. And now people know during election time when we're showing up, it's because we know that this is going to be the best thing for our community.
I want to unpack one of those real quick, DeJuana, because this is a question that I have for people. Because people may or may not know how to choose a candidate. So I'm not just the president. In Alabama, we have a Senate race, and there are races that happen all the time, even if it's not this particular election. Governor is coming up soon, right? There are other positions, city councilman. How do
Next year.
people choose their candidates? What are some of the things that we should be looking at?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. One, you have to start with what you value, right? And what you want your experience and your whoever it is that you care about their experiences to be. But just start with yourself. What is the world you want to see? What is the community you want to see? What is the city you want to see, right? What are the things that you care about? What are the things that when you wake up, it's you're very concerned about? And sort of once you do that inner work of knowing what you care about, then the question is aligning what you care about and what your values are to the platform of a candidate. And here's the thing, I wouldn't even say the platform of a party, because, historically we may have seen Republicans be a certain kind of way and Democrats potentially be a certain kind of way and libertarians be a certain kind of way, whatever. But that doesn't mean that candidate is, that person, right? Or going to hold that line. And what I would also remind people is that a lot of the roles that we vote for are not aligned to political party. So the mayor's office, the sheriff's department, district attorneys, these are judges. None of these are really aligned to party. They're aligned to value set, right? You look at what they're saying about how they want to lead. I remember back when District Attorney Danny Carr was running. Yes, we were excited that it was a possibility of having our first African American district attorney, but I also looked at what he did as an assistant district attorney when he had that time, and whether or not under his leadership, people, particularly my community, how did we fare under his leadership? Were more people put away for offenses that could have been dealt with differently? Were there programs to deal with root causes? What is your commitment to breaking the school to prison pipeline? All of these different things. So I'm listening to what it is that he cares about that aligns with my values. And then you have to just have an act of faith, right? Because once you do that, you got to hope that they do it. But it's not just a hope that is a shallow hope. We actually have a responsibility then, after we elect somebody, if we get that person that we wanted, and if we don't, whoever's in that office, we have a responsibility to hold them accountable to the due diligence of their role and to the due diligence of a law and to the due diligence of what they agreed to do. So I don't care if you are Republican, Democrat, if your role says that you're supposed to serve in this way, I'm holding you accountable to that. I
Right.
don't, so we have to, it's a process. It's know what you care about,
Hmm.
align what you care about to the platforms or to the words or to the programs, to the character, of the person that you're thinking about supporting. And then, go from there, make that vote. And then after that, hold that person accountable, whether they're on either side. And Strick, the only other thing I would say is this, is that it's interesting to me that in a place like Alabama, where Alabama has been historically red state, which means it's a historically Republican state,
Right.
we've had certain folk who ran for office here, that they probably were Republican, and I supported them, not because they were Republican, but because they had the best plan and they actually were out there working and changing the community.
Right.
We don't have as many, progressive people running for office in, Alabama. And so it really boils down to me is who has the best plan for my community and for my family and ultimately for myself. And I will say right now, I think that, with everything that is going on in the country, I think that we should be looking for leaders who are looking to bring us together, not divide us. I
Gotcha.
think we should be looking for leaders who have a plan for how we address some of these glaring disparities in healthcare, in education, in state sanctioned violence, in the housing market, food deserts, climate. Like these are things that disproportionately impact communities of color every single day. So if you don't have a plan for it, or you think that where we are right now, everybody's okay, you're not getting my vote because we're
Right.
not okay over here, right?
Right.
There's
Right.
whole communities that are not okay. And if you're telling me that everything is good right now, me and you not we don't we're not holding the same value or opinion. So I think we just have to really do our due diligence on that.
I like that. So we have people in our community. DeJuana, I know you've heard this person. I'm going to vote. Just tell me who I should vote for.
Yeah.
The people that don't want to do the research, they see you as the expert. You guys are out there. How do you handle that case?
I mean, it depends on how much time I have, right? As a person, you'll be surprised. I get texts. It's so funny. There's one person, and I don't know if he's watching or not, but every election cycle, he gonna text me and say, "Who we voting for?" And
Right. Right.
I'm always like, really, dude? Like, have you? You know that I'm gonna tell you the same thing, which is here are the list of candidates here, and sometimes I'll run down it with him and just give him the top level because to his point there's just so much information,
There
right?
he is.
And so what vote has tried to do, and what we've done in previous years is we've broken down, here's what this role does, here, here's what you should think about or consider with that, and here's who's currently in that role, here's who's running for this role, and here's what they say, right? Or we point people to their to the sites. And so, so with most people, we try to give them some information that helps with that. But we never, ever, ever try to tell people who to vote for because number one, then what happens is people think that the work that we're doing is aligned to a candidate or
Right.
to a party. And
Right.
I have a problem with that because there quite frankly hasn't been any candidate or party that has holistically and 100% shown up the way that we need people to do, in our communities, right? And so I think the reality is that we have to give people the information, we have to tell them what's at stake, and we can say, listen, here's what this candidate is saying, here's what that candidate is saying, and make the choice for yourselves. And I believe that our community is smart enough to make the right choices, if they are empowered, if they are engaged, if they are given the tools that they need, and if when they go to the polls their vote actually counts and is not stolen.
That you're setting me up for all of my questions
I'm
tonight
trying.
because voter suppression is a big deal.
Yeah,
It is happening across the country. I
it
did not know
absolutely
this.
is.
So I'm sitting, DeJuana, and I'm watching the nomination of the Supreme Court judge. And they
Yeah,
go through
yeah,
explaining how voter suppression or the Voters' Right Act, why it was
hmm,
established, and what has happened since it has
yeah,
ended in certain states,
right,
Alabama, Texas, and there was a couple
Mhm.
other states that were having issues with doing.
Systematically, it's being stripped away. Yeah.
Like, let's just go with. I'll throw out what I know about Texas, and then can you explain some of the things that you've witnessed, or some of the things that's going on in Alabama, so people will know what they need to be watching out for. So in Texas,
Yeah.
there was a county, huge county, 22 boxes across the county that the leaders in that county stripped them down to just one ballot box for people to actually put their
Yep.
ballots in. So, of course,
Yep.
you got 22 boxes, you got all these people. There's no way all those people are going to be able to use that one box. So then again, people don't have access to the voting tools they would normally have. That is voter suppression. Now,
Yeah.
Alabama. So I
You know
know in
what's
Alabama, like this is what I know. Like the whole thing we did, it was a year or two ago when they started requesting people to have valid IDs to vote.
Yeah, I mean that has always been a process, right? Having some sort of ID, but there were different things you could bring, like a bill. You know what I'm saying? There were different, yeah, social security card. There were different ways in which you could do it, and then it just really started getting to where it was like, oh, if your license is expired, you can't use it. I'm like, the license, and here's why knowing the rules is important, because the expired license is not an issue. That shouldn't stop you from voting. They use the license to determine who you are. So whether
Right.
the license is expired or not is irrelevant, right? And so
Right.
all of that is just, very interesting. But I will say, this year, and I'm saying this in a very cautious way, we are seeing some interesting developments in the fact that we're even able to do this in person absentee voting, ballot voting, which is Alabama's version of early vote right now.
Right.
It's still problematic, it's still flawed, but it's one of the it's the only way that we have that we can vote prior to election day. And previously, you could not do that, other than having a risk, I mean, an excuse that was valid in order to actually request an absentee ballot. And somebody could tell you that excuse is valid or not, right? And if they didn't accept it, you just couldn't vote, which was a thorn in my flesh for a long time, when you have states that can register and vote on the same day,
Right.
right? On election day. It's like North Carolina. But much to your point, Strict, when I was in Louisville earlier this year, for the primaries, we're talking about, they had somewhere over, I think it was a little bit over 600 polling locations, and it went down to one.
Wow.
And people, the line was so long to get off the highway to get to the Cardinal Stadium where they had the voting, or not the Cardinal Stadium, the Young Center where they had the voting, that it took an hour just to get off the highway to get in line to vote. That was just to get in line. And
Wow.
I'm like, come on, y'all. You know what I'm saying? And it's just ultimately what we have seen is a systemic or a systematic approach to suppressing the vote, particularly in Black and Brown communities, where we know that turnout in the increased turnout and turnout in those precincts will likely result in some different leadership. And so, what we've done at Woke Vote, and a lot of organizations that we partner with, the Until Freedoms of the World, the NAACPs, the New Georgia Projects, Fair Fight, Stacey Abrams' organization, what we've done is really try to focus this year on making sure that people who are working inside the voting booths reflect the values of the communities that they're serving, who are coming to vote. Because when someone who works on the inside is actually invested in making sure that you vote, it's a different experience than somebody who's there who really could care less whether or not you vote, who
Gotcha.
who haven't checked their machines so that they know that before the election day that they're broken. Some
Right.
people, we're going in on election day and all the machines are broke. You can't tell me you didn't realize that yesterday, because you
Right.
have to check them. That's a part of the process. So we did we worked with so many organizations to get people who care about their communities, who want to increase the access to vote in some of these high risk black and brown precincts. And we're hoping that that's making the difference. We're seeing long lines of people standing in line in early vote locations all over the place. And we're really excited about that. Give me 1 second, Strick. It's looking like my computer might die on me. So
I
give me one
got you.
second to grab
Listen,
it.
this is what I want to do. I want to explain something to you guys, and I need you to help me out a little bit. This information we're giving around election season, it comes every other year or so, for the president every 4 years. And we have the mayor's office, you have city council people, you have so many different elected officials that you have to vote for. We need to come up with a process that's good for you. You need to be thoughtful of this is how much time I want to invest in this so I make a good decision for me. You know why?
Right.
Because your district attorney affects you and your family. If
Yeah,
something happens in the community, guess what? They make the decision on whether your case goes to trial or not. Like, do
that's
we have
right.
enough information? And there's a lot of people that look like me and DeJuana that have gone to court
Yeah,
because we have you know what? The right
yeah.
district attorney could change cases, and we see that
Oh
right
my
now,
God.
even with Brianna Taylor's case.
Yeah,
And more things are
absolutely.
going to come out. And you know what? And in this time, that person looks like us. But what are the qualifications? What decision has been made? There's so many things that we have to look into because the one at the end of the day, right is right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's no
You
way you
know,
can get around that.
what's unfortunate about, the district attorney Daniel Cameron and Breonna Taylor case, as someone who's been very close to it, who has been with the Taylor family, Tamika Palmer, Breonna's mother, her sister Janiyah, for probably the last 200 days on the ground with them fighting. I will tell you this, and today, we saw the actual starting to see the testimony of the jury saying that they never got certain information, saying that charges weren't even brought to the attention to deliberate on, saying that there was information that could have been very critical to making a decision that they never received, or being told stuff like, we'll get back to you with that answer, and then that answer never coming back and still being asked to deliberate. And so what we saw and what we've seen and what we knew to be true from the beginning was that this whole thing has been a miscarriage of justice. And I think that why it's so important to say it in that way is that Breonna Taylor family, the families of those who've been impacted by state sanctioned violence, is they're not asking, for a favor, right? They're
Right.
asking for the same system that this country says is supposed to be for everybody, and blind under the eyes of the law and all of this kind of stuff, and justice is blind. Well, where is that justice for us when it's at the hand of the state? Where
Right.
is that justice and that righteousness, right? And so I think it's that space where people are having to ask those tough questions, like, okay, either you are for us or you are against us.
Right.
And in this case, a lot of people are, making whatever determinations that they have to make. And so I think when it comes to what you said, states attorneys, district attorneys, they can absolutely say, hey, this child had this 17-year-old or this 21-year-old, this is their first offense, they still have value. There's some root issues that might have been there, not to say that they can get scot off for, get off scot-free for doing something that was wrong. Nobody's saying that. What we're saying is, see the humanity and the opportunity in the fact that that person could still grow up and live, a life that is good for his community, or that's good for his family or her family. And what's happening is at 17, 18, 16, 19, 21, and a lot of these younger cases, they are being tried as adults as if they could never, if it,
Right.
if as if they could never
Be
be
rehabilitated.
yeah, rehabilitated, right? And so that's the part that I don't understand. You know what I mean? It's like you have decided that these people are not worthy of redemption. is the word I'm really looking for, right? And so I think that because they could easily say I'm not gonna do that. And so that's why these decisions make, that we have are so critical, because we're putting so much power in the hands of these individuals. And when they, and they're going to wield that power however they see fit, and 9 times out of 10 they wield that power based on the morality, based on their understanding of, community, based on their proximity to, community. And I just think that we've got to do our due diligence to get some righteous leaders in those roles.
I absolutely love it. I love the information, DeJuana, you give. I mean, this conversation, guys, it's got to be shared. It's got to be replayed. If you know people, start watch parties, whatever. What she's giving us right now, the things that we need to know going into November
Yeah.
3rd. Be ready, be prepared. One of the things I want to ask you, DeJuana, is a lot of times we know in the state of Alabama, and I know Woke Vote is a national organization. I'm focused on, my small little corner of the world, because I think people need to hear and know if you are in what's considered a red state,
Hmm.
how you can how your vote still counts, because people can use
Yeah.
that as an excuse.
Yeah.
They can. It's a red state. No matter what we do, it's still going to be a red state. But we have in Alabama just what, a year or two ago, where we had a Democrat actually win a Senate race. But we have
Yeah.
other races. We have other what you call it, positions
Seats.
or
Yeah.
election candidates that
Hmm.
is not just a red state issue,
Yeah.
or city issue or
Absolutely.
something like this. There's other things. So if they use that excuse, okay, I understand from a presidential election, maybe you have a little, but there are other things on a ballot that we need to be aware of.
Absolutely. One of the things that I like to mention of is that something as simple as the Alabama State Constitution, right? Our Constitution is so old, it is
Right,
so antiquated, but a lot of people don't realize that school segregation is actually still legal
right,
according to the Alabama schools Constitution. And what's crazy about that is maybe 4 or 5 years ago, on the ballot was whether or not we wanted to take segregation out of the Constitution, and it didn't even pass. Why? Because people didn't even know it was on there, because
right,
people didn't even take the time to vote for that. And so I think that that's another way that it is a tool of voter suppression and voter intimidation, not to put information out there about these kinds of things, right?
right,
um and to the less informed we are, the more opportunities they have to push agendas and to push things across that would ultimately harm our communities. And so, yeah, if you live in a red state, or if you live in a place that is traditionally conservative, if you live in a space where, or if, on the flip side, if you live in New York and you're a conservative, and New York is pretty much gonna go blue, right?
hey,
And you're
listen,
asking,
thank you for bringing balance to
you know,
that, because I went
you
one
know,
direction. I
it's
apologize.
okay. No, it's good. Because we don't know who you worldwide. We don't know who watching.
Right,
But the point is, you know, there's much to be said about the fact that believing your vote counts is not even so much in believing that who you vote for is going to win. That's actually not an indicator about whether or not your vote counts. What's an indicator of whether or not your vote counts is whomever gets in office, how do we hold them accountable? Right? If you're not a voter, you're not a part of the political process. The way
right,
we talk about this to a lot of people is, in the terms of power and currency. Everybody understand that, right? More money, more power, all of those
right,
things. Everybody want to talk about power and money, right? Well, Strick, I don't know about you, but I'm not giving up none of my power, right?
right.
Like, if my vote is my power and it's my way of leveraging and taking on the things for my community, you're not just gonna take that from me without a fight. You're not gonna speak on my behalf. I'm gonna use that tool.
Right.
Likewise, my vote is my currency. you ain't just gonna take my money either. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And
Right.
so the thing of the matter is that when we are using that voting currency, we have a responsibility, or we believe that when we spend that money, when we spend that currency, that we're getting a quality product, that that thing is gonna work the way it said it did. When I bought my car, I go back to my car situation, you know, I paid a nice amount of money for my car. I expected to drive. I don't want to see no lights on the dash. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I wanted to do
Right.
everything it said it's going to do, because it told me that it was worth the value.
Right.
My vote is worth value. Our votes are worth value, and so they work for us. You know, this is our power. This is our currency. These people work for us, and so, but they don't necessarily, and they work for us. Whether you know, I don't ever want to say I don't like the idea of shaming people into voting, right?
Hmm.
Because to be shamed into something means I'm also not giving you enough information to make the critical decision that you need to make to participate in your democracy, right? So I'm not going to shame anybody into something. Sometimes that means we just haven't done enough work to give them a reason to consider on their own. And I'm committed, though, to giving them those reasons, to coming back and having those conversations. Maybe you won't vote this election, but I promise you, by the time I get finished with you, you're going to vote in the next one if I got
Right.
anything to say about it. And so we have to, we can't write people off because they don't vote. I just say that there's still more work to be done to encourage, engage, and empower that person to actually believe that their vote counts. But the last thing I want to say to that, Strict, is right now, at any given time, we have enough voters who are registered to wield power either way, whether you are, you know, for the conservative side or the progressive side. There are enough registered people who, if they would just vote, we can do this. And I'm not talking about non-registered. You know what I'm saying? And so
No, no, no. Hold
it's
on. Say that. You
yeah,
said that really fast.
yeah.
We have enough registered voters to move the dial anywhere we want to move it.
We absolutely do. To your point, with Doug Jones's race, uh, or the Senate race in 2017, the special Senate race, the reason why so many people didn't believe that he could win that race is because they didn't believe that Black voters would turn out for a special race for somebody that they may or may not have really known. You know, there was this idea that, you know, Alabama was going to always go a certain kind of way, and that,
Right.
you know, it just was what it is. And I just remember sitting at the time, I was still living in DC, and I thought to myself, they don't even know anything about Alabama. How you gonna tell me who going, you know what I'm saying?
Come
Like,
on. Right. Right. Right.
you
Right.
know, what our people will do if given resources, if told that this is what's going on. And in about 6 to 7 or 8 weeks, we were able to turn out 100,000 plus African
Wow.
American voters. We never said Doug Jones. We never said Roy Moore. What we said is prove that we have the power and prove that we have the activity to do it. And that message was actually stronger, in my opinion, than even the fact that we were able to put a Democrat in office for the first time in 25 years. The message really was, you didn't think we could do it, and we did it. And we did it
Right.
on the back of Black men and women voters who said enough is enough. Like, we're going to prove something to you, and have continued to do that, because the next year we got our first Democratic, and so we got our first Black district attorney. We got our first Black sheriff. We got what was it, 9 Black female judges. Like, we are continuing to see the kinds of leaders that we believe will take on our causes and champion them for us in a righteous way, be put into place by an empowered people. And I
Right.
think that as long as we can keep people feeling like, listen, this is about you, this is about your ability to change your community and your material conditions, that we will continue to move in that way.
So, Duana, hear me when I say this. You are a real jewel to our community. Like,
Thank you.
I appreciate the work that you do for us.
Thank
And
you.
it's just like, you know, we got to have doctors, we got to have lawyers. We have to have people that have put themselves in the political uh, arena to help us navigate through decisions. All
Mm,
right. Not to say, hey, do this or do that, but help us understand what's at stake
yeah.
with our power that we have with currency. And what was the other one? Power. Your power
Power
and
and
your
currency. Yeah.
currency. So
Yeah.
those simple statements, the one I think really puts a stamp on this conversation tonight, and I hope that it helps people that that you're taking the time tonight to educate people, and then you still working even after this to make sure people are educated through Woke Vote. If people
Yeah.
are hearing this tonight, they're seeing this tonight, they want to get involved in Woke
Yeah.
Vote, how can they do it?
Oh my gosh. So first of all, we only have, I think at this point, 16 days into the election. I'm almost overwhelmed by that my own self, but the reality is, or 14 days, I'm sorry, 14 days until election day. And I think a lot of people have made up their minds. I truly believe, Strick, that a lot of people know who they want to vote for and really whether or not they're going to vote. And our job is to get them to the finish line. And so
Got you.
you can vote. We've created, much to your point, for people who need to know, more about their voting information. They have questions about the process. If you go to vote.wokevote.us and put your information in, it will tell you how many days left you have to fill out a ballot. It will walk you through a voter plan. It will allow you to commit to vote. It'll allow you to. We just ended the registration deadline was just happened, but there's not a deadline on registering to vote. Period. It's just a deadline for this particular election. Is up, and so, but it'll allow you to do all those things in that, and it'll allow you to sign up to volunteer. We have so many, we have paid and volunteer opportunities. So
Let,
please,
let
if
me
you're
let me interrupt
interested,
you just really quick. I want to be sure I got this.
yes, that's right.
Vote.
Vote.vote.us.
Oh, I didn't mess it up. Thank goodness.
No, you didn't. You got it. That's it. That's
All right.
it. And when you go to that, like I said, you can. And this tool, the great thing about this, Strict, is not just for Alabama. So if you are a college student and you're away at college or wherever it may be, you can put in any states, and it will give you all of the information that you need for this state. For your voter experience, and it'll also allow you to sign up or give you information about how to get involved. I would love to say we have a Woke Vote tour that's kicking off on Saturday. We're going to 11 different cities, but we'll be in Birmingham on Monday with some of the 40 of the most incredible organizers from across the state. We're doing a state of emergency vote tour. This is critical, Strict, because what we do know is this election has seemed to be like 5 years long. And for a lot of people,
Right.
we want to just be sure that they haven't tapped out. And so we're showing up in these neighborhoods, showing up in these communities with activity, with power, and saying, let's go. And so on Monday, right around 12 o'clock, we're going to be asking everybody to meet us downtown. Anybody who wants to early vote, meet your girl downtown Monday at 12 o'clock at 16th Street Baptist Church. And we're going to all go together. We're going to be in that line together. We're going to wait together, but we're going to show the state of Alabama that we care about our vote. And so if you haven't done it, you're going to get more information about that. But this upcoming Monday, 12 o'clock, citywide vote together. Let's see what we're going to make it to where they're going to have to, they're going to have to do something because we coming, right? And we're
Wow.
doing that in all the cities that we're going to be in. We're going to be in Philadelphia, Charlotte, Raleigh-Durham, Detroit, Miami, Orlando. So, Atlanta. So this is just going to be all over the place. And we're really excited to also, I can't ever do nothing and not bring it home. So we're bringing the tour through Birmingham.
That's what's up. DeJuana, I feel like Roland Martin right now with this conversation. I absolutely am like so excited to have you on tonight to talk about it. Not only that, we had people like Jonathan McReynolds to chime in tonight and say he's proud to rock Woke Vote.
Yeah, he's a Woke Vote ambassador. He's lent his voice and his credibility and his platform to us as one of our ambassadors, and we love Jonathan so much for that. He's an incredible spirit and an incredible voice right now. So we thank him for that. Happy to see him on here. I see Alo made it with us tonight too, and Joshua Arabia, another young brother who's out here really activating on the ground politically. So I see you, Josh.
So there you go. So excited to have DeJuana on today. Vote.wokevote.us.
Yes.
I got it. I got
Yes,
all
that's
the
it.
information. Hold what you got, DeJuana. I want to wrap up really
Yes.
quick.
Okay.
Dude, what can I say? Like, what more can I say? She said it all. This video, I'm going to try my best to replay it again so you get all the information all over again about what you need to do. She gave us 3 steps today of what Woke Vote is trying to do. She's told us about, we talked about voter suppression, what's happening, how we could understand our candidates or educate ourselves on what we think is important to us to choose the right candidate. All that information is in the video tonight. And not only that, it's been validated by work that she's doing, even in partnership with people like Jonathan McReynolds, and it's a ton of other celebrities that are working on with Woke Vote, and I'm so proud to call her a friend and to share the information with you tonight. That being said, Thursday night, 8 o'clock, we're going to talk more about encouraging you in your finances and in your life. So people that are struggling, want to start new jobs, new businesses, or make the next steps in your own personal excellence, I have Nicole Cooper that's coming to the show, and we're going to talk about it. So don't miss out next Thursday. No, this Thursday, a couple of days from now, 8 p.m., Strick City Live. Thank y'all so very much for hanging out with us tonight.